Going live. All right. Hello, we're live. Richard here. Hi. Welcome everyone to Scaleup Leaders this week. This week I've got a special guest. My guest is Nikos Kryvossidis. Nikos is someone I've known for, I guess it must be since about 2006 or 7. We worked together at Google. He was my director. So the manager of my manager. And I found at the time, it was really interesting. He was one of the first real managers that I worked with, like someone who actually knew management and had an opinion on what management was. And so in my experience with him, it was one of the best managers I ever had, although one level removed. And he had lots of great pieces of wisdom about management. And since then, he's moved on from Google. He was at Symbian beforehand, and then Google, Lucid, I think before that, before Symbian. And then since then, he's moved on to various companies in the gaming space, and now he is independent and does as a consultant and runs an outsourcing business as well. So, in fact, maybe I'll ask him about that. I'll bring him on board. Hey, Nikos, you there?
Hello, happy
Excellent.
to be here.
How are you doing? Did I get your current role right? What are you currently doing?
Yes, I finished my last position as CTO at Racing Post, and now I'm just an individual consultant.
Excellent. So anyone who's talking to Nikos and would like to work with him, I'm sure you can. I'm sure we'll make sure there's a link somewhere. We'll make sure we get that out at the end of this session. But look, thanks for joining us. The reason this came up was because of because of a quote that I put of yours on a LinkedIn post that I had, and the quote was basically the one of the things that stuck in my mind, and it stuck in the minds of many of my colleagues that we worked with you, which was don't do anything stupid. And the context of this was people ask the question, what if we write our OKRs in such a way, or what if we write our goals in such a way that it causes people to go and do the wrong thing or whatever like that? And the answer to that you always had was don't do anything stupid. You always use your brain. If your OKR says something that isn't quite right, make sure you're engaging your brain and work on that. That's been something that I've taken to most of my customers since then, which I think is a really good thing. But where did that come from?
So I got that from my director from Lucent Technologies in Holland. His name is Burg de Man, and he used to tell me, whatever you do, don't do anything stupid. And Lucent was a highly process-driven company. You could not go to the bathroom if there was no process, And I was a maverick, and I was doing things off the book. And he said, "Look, do whatever you want, but don't do anything stupid." And he supported me in my maverick escapades. We were freaking out all the Dutch, but he was very supportive, and I learned a lot from him to actually be supportive of my guys when they're doing the right thing, no matter what the book says.
Yeah, for sure. Is this something? This is like something that obviously comes up in every organization, and in some ways, it's like a lot of the work that you did at Google was in this sort of way. Like, there's always in every organization some sort of stupid that comes down from somewhere. But is this mostly about don't do stupid things that you're being asked to do, or is this about don't do stupid things you're not being asked to do?
I'll give you an example of how things can become stupid. So I was running, after Google, I was running a very big organization in China, which I created from employee number one. It was about 150 people. And I asked the local director, I said, "Look, the average number of defects fixed in England is 5 per person per week. In China, it's 3. Let's see how we can improve the efficiency of the China organization as well." Sure enough, like a week later, I get average 5. I'm thinking, freaking hell, how did he achieve that?
Right.
But he went to everybody and said, "You need to do 5 a week." Of course, the engineers, what did they do? They did 5 a week. But to do 5 a week, they picked the easiest ones. Right. And they were not solving the difficult ones. So although I was getting an average of 5 a week, the age of defects started growing because there were some defects that nobody would touch. So the
Okay,
average
interesting.
age was going up.
Yep.
And, then I said, oh, how did you do it? He says, well, I told everybody do 5. I think, oh, 5, sorry. That was,
That's okay. I don't think we have children on the call.
Right? You cannot apply statistical analysis on an individual.
Yeah.
So here's an example where I had every good intention in what I was trying to achieve, and my director did something stupid.
Right. So the person reporting to you did something stupid, as in tried to
Yeah,
manage to the number.
and if it was not doable, he should
Mhm.
have said, look, you can't get 5 for this reason, so don't ask me to do anything stupid.
Right. So in that sense, 5 could have been a stupid target, and then
Yeah,
instead of saying no, that's a stupid target, we're not doing that, he went and did it by doing it in a stupid way, then caused stupid things to
exactly.
happen. So what was
And
how did you rectify that in the end?
sorry, say that again.
How did you rectify that in the end? Or what was the end game? How did that work out?
Well, I explained to him that, you can't actually solve it like that. You need to understand why these 3, what are the issues. Maybe they don't get good direction. And, he was like, okay, I understand. I'm going to fix it a different way. Don't
Yeah.
remember what happened in the end. Probably was fixed the right way.
Right. But basically it came down to like you understanding how to track the pain point, the tracking, like you've got some sort of metrics you're doing regularly. So you're regularly tracking things, and you're tracking
Yes,
the fact that, there's also a ticket age going up. And so we need to be managing that too.
exactly. And, as a manager, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You could be the CEO. You
Yeah.
need to understand, okay, we can see the problem. Do we understand why we have the problem? People tend to jump into, okay, let's do that. I go, whoa. Do you understand what's causing it? Because if you don't understand the root cause, you're applying treatment that is, it's a guesswork. It may work, it may not work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, one of the things that we talked about when we were setting this call up, I guess in some sense we're almost, talking about things that are related, let's say. But I mean, was because we're talking about a failure in someone else's situation
Yes.
there. You mentioned that what's the biggest failure in your career would be an interesting thing to talk about. It's not something that I've ever asked my my manager's manager before, but I'd love to ask, like, because I mean, from my
Yeah.
perspective, as an outsider observer on your career, you're sort of like the person who got to a couple of levels ahead of me, obviously, and you came into Google and you knew what you were doing, you had an opinion, and you were confident. And so, from our perspective, I know all the guys we worked with at Google in the team there see you as being one of the the gurus, one of the people who really understands management and is successful. So I'm intrigued. What's the failure then?
Okay. So my first CTO position, I think I became overly arrogant or too self-confident. Oh my God, look at me. And instead of actually dealing with the organization, the delivery of the programs, I started being involved mostly in board meetings. And I was dealing
Right.
with 3 CEOs, 3 different companies. So 3 board meetings, 3 strategy meetings. And
Okay.
it was complex, but I should have dealt with the real work rather than feeling important
Right. This was after Google, was it? This
and
was.
losing my ways. Yes.
Yeah.
So while
So
I
how did that?
was going around board meetings, my programs were failing.
How did you discover this and recover from it?
They fired me.
Sorry for the
It
awkward
was like,
question.
okay, what happened here? And I had to understand what happened. And
Yep.
it's very easy and equally very dangerous when something goes wrong to say somebody else's fault. But it was my fault. Of course, there were
Yeah.
some external factors, but mostly it was myself
Yep.
feeling too important and too, self-admiring.
Right.
And the next time I had the next CTO position, I actually managed the position rather than managing board members and all that jazz.
Right, interesting. Is that? I mean, because one of the things that I recall you saying at the very start, when you joined Google, was, and this is something that I was fascinated in and I always wanted to delve into. You said you were going to get the managers to do the work of managing, because when you joined, a lot of the managers were kind of individual contributors and managers, and
Yeah,
they do half their work, IC work, IC being individual contributor, like doing the coding or doing the working with customers. And you said, we're going to stop with all that. We're going to get you to delegate it, and you're going to do the work of management, and you're going to be even busier.
yeah,
And that's what I recall you saying at the time. And I remember, I mean, I wasn't a manager at the time, and I've since been there a little bit. But what did you mean by the work of management? And I guess there's a relationship between that and what did you mean by the work of the
yeah.
CTO?
So first of all, in any position, especially the very senior positions and especially executive level, the role, let's take a CTO, for example, but I think it applies equally to all executive positions. The role requires to look after four things. First and foremost, and you may laugh at that, is taking care of the finances. Doesn't matter if you're CTO. I was managing 17 million. I know CTOs who manage 100 million. It's a lot of money to manage. You need to know where it is being spent, what happens if.
Yep.
Then you need to manage technology, the actual, okay, what's the future of technology? What are we going to be doing? What is our technology strategy?
Yep.
Then you need to manage the delivery, because normally CTOs, engineering, they deliver product, and you have to have an opinion about the product itself. And you need to manage the people. Now, what does manage the people mean? The role of the manager is actually to serve the people. You need to look after their careers. You need to make sure they're happy. You need to understand their problems. You need to remove the obstacles that sometimes the organization puts in front of them. You need to shield the people from all the bullshit that is coming down. And when something stupid is asked of you, you don't go and say, oh, look, I know it's stupid, but we need to do this. No, you need to say, no, I'm not doing it. And your people should not even find out that all that bullshit is actually flying over.
What's an example of that kind of thing that you're talking about there? Like something stupid being asked. We talked about stupid quite a lot, but what's an
I'll
example?
give you an example. I was at Symbian. My manager comes like 9 o'clock in the morning. Nikos, the CEO asked for a new budget by 11 o'clock. I go, you know what? I don't need 2 hours to do a new budget. I'll give you my numbers. Here they are. Because that's bullshit. I said, it will be bullshit at 11. So I'm not going to waste 2 hours, nor am I going to go to my guys and waste their 2 hours. Here are my numbers. No, come on, let's do it. I said, I'm not doing anything. These are the numbers. Do whatever you want, because you're asking me something that is total bullshit.
Because you can't make a sensible decision about budgets in 2 hours.
A new budget in 2 hours. I mean, who are you going to start talking to, and what kind of numbers they're going to give you?
Yeah.
Right? So 11 o'clock deadline comes and goes. Around 1 o'clock, CEO messages everybody saying, the budget you submitted is all bullshit, and I'm giving you 3 days to do it right. So my manager comes to me and says, how did you know? I go, what do you mean, how did I know? It was obvious nobody can do a budget in 2 hours. You shouldn't have asked me. You should have told the CEO, look, it ain't going to happen. You want numbers? Here, take some numbers. These are my numbers. Instead of actually propagating the lunacy of what is being asked down the organization.
Yeah.
I can give you an example from my army service as well, which is even worse because you're
Army's
sitting orders, right?
Army's a reputation for this. Yes.
I was doing my military services every Greek has to do. And I was guarding the front gate, which means at 3 o'clock when the officers are going, you need to open the gate, you need to take the rifle, present arms, salute.
Yeah.
I get a call 10 to 3 saying the commanding officer ordered that I clean the whole area because, it's a lot of garbage around it. I go, I can't do it right now. I'll do it this evening. No. The commanding officer said, I said,
Yeah.
tell the commanding officer that me, private, says no. The guy was screaming at me. He says, you can't do that. I said, I can do whatever you want. I'm not doing it. Tell him, Nikos said, he'll do it this evening. So the guy gave up. Of course, 5 minutes later, everybody started passing. I did and that evening, I got a Jeep. I got a couple more guys, some bin liners. I cleaned it up. Commanding officer, the next day, as he was coming in the morning, I was guarding the front gate again. He stopped. He was looking around. He says, okay, great. Good job. And he went.
Because he doesn't need it done right now. He needs it done, but he needs it done before he gets there.
Exactly. But the guy giving me the message, it was like, okay, it's an order. It's like the CEO said by 11 o'clock, we're going to do a budget. And you go, well, that ain't going to happen.
Have you ever given a stupid request that you've discovered later was stupid, and someone's pushed back on you and you've realized that, and what happens?
I don't remember a case. I don't have a story, but it would be very arrogant of me to say that I never did. I probably have.
Because I think a lot of these things get interpreted at multiple levels. And so when you see something at the senior levels, you're asking something seems sensible, and then it gets multiplied down and it turns into a stupid request. Maybe that can happen as well.
Yeah, I guess the CEO has a need, and that need is to revise the budget. But nobody from his direct reports actually says, look, Bob, it's going to take longer than that if you want, okay? Yeah. First of all, why do we need it? I'll give you another example. Finance guy, my finance, let's say, liaison, when I was CEO, would come to me and say, we need a list of the vacancies and which ones are new vacancies and which are replacing existing positions, etc. I go, why? Well, the CFO asked for it. I go, yeah, I get that. Why is he asking? Oh, I don't know. I said, if you don't know, you're not adding any value to the chain. Go and find out. He says, yeah, but he's asking. I said, look, I'm not doing it. If he has a problem, let him call me. Because I need to understand why someone is asking me to do things. Plus, it was impossible to say, let's say you have 200 people, at any point you have, let's say, 5 open vacancies, 3 guys have resigned, you have 1 project delayed, you move 2 people from here, 1 there, which one is the new position? And ultimately, what difference does it make? Because you're not managing people in that respect. You're simply managing money.
Yeah.
I may delay 1 vacancy, hire a contractor, cancel this, move money from A to B. So it's all about money. And organizations who are obsessed with, how many vacancies do we have? They're asking their own questions.
Yeah, so basically what's happening here is that someone's trying to make a decision without the right information. They're trying to make a dumb decision because they're like, maybe if we
why he wanted it, because he never called me.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And when I left, he said, you're the best CTO we ever had because I never had to worry with you about money. You knew where every penny was.
Right. That's interesting because it's like in that sense, a lot of people that I work with, so I'm working mostly with scale-ups, early stage, they're 50 people, they're maybe 200 people, maybe they're 500 people. And often enough, the CTO has come through the ranks of technology and they see their role as a technical role. And so when finance is talked about, or when HR and marketing gets talked about, unless it directly affects them, they switch off. At least that's a model that I've seen. And and my usual advice is that if you're in the C-suite, then you've got to be engaged in sort of all of these hot topics. What is the CTO role? Is the CTO role a technical role or a business role, or?
It is inevitably both.
Yeah.
Inevitably. So same with the chief product officer. It's a product role. He needs to manage the money. The marketing guy. It's a marketing role. You have to have the idea of what marketing strategy you're going to implement, how it's going to be. Yep. But you're spending a lot of money. You need to know what you're spending, where it is being spent, what contracts you're signing. You know, every role at that level is about money. Inevitably, it is both.
And I guess in the strategy and the execution sense as well, I mean, these things are topics that are not constrained to your technology team. I mean, strategy is something that goes across the business, right? Do you see the CTO role as having an interest or impact in how, or being involved in how the marketing strategy is coming, or how the company strategy is coming along, or is it just a technology strategy?
The company strategy, definitely. Because you need to provide technology for what the company is trying to achieve instead of technology for technology. Because remember, one of the biggest dangers is over-engineering it. Now, whether the CTO has a view of what the marketing strategy is, I never had one. Product, I had a lot of views because I'm delivering the product.
Yeah.
And I have to say, at Racing Post, the best experience I had, the chief product officer and I worked. We called our department tech and product, or product and tech. It was never one without the other. We had the same objectives, all of it.
Okay, cool.
We had the same town hall, all hand meetings. We were running one financial report.
Yep.
Everything was done together. And moreover, I said, look, if me and Alex make, let's say, 80% of our bonus, our entire organization is going to make 80% of the bonus, because we're going to award or reward the organization for the work they achieved all together. Yeah. HR and finance wanted me to do individual objectives. I said, okay, so instead of giving Richard 800 pounds, I'm going to give him 750. Forget it. I'm not. Besides, you need to know, why are you giving a bonus to the people? Yeah. Because remember, the fear is, what if one person is not performing?
This has come up in one of my clients.
Yes, but so you're going to make a complicated process for 200 people in case 5 people are not performing. Mm-hmm. Why? Why are you making the process for the 5 and you're not making it for the 195? Besides, if someone is not performing, you have performance appraisals. You have a whole different process to deal with performance. Yeah. Just give the bonus to the people for the good work they did.
So this is really about, like, the bonus or the incentive structure here is about, like, trying to get the organization or the team, the cross team, to collaborate and perform as a team. And that really means if you're going to hit the bonus as the product and technology team, you have to be collaborating really well with marketing and sales and customer success, or whoever else is in the business.
Yeah. And the biggest issue is, if product is trying to achieve their objectives and technology trying to achieve their objectives, I'm like, well, hold on. Is it not trying to deliver the product?
Yeah.
So why do we have different objectives?
This is the thing that I often struggle with because a lot of teams, like I work in the OKR spaces, with companies doing OKRs, and so it's all about setting objectives and key results. But I mean, often they want to have an objective, like, per team or per manager or per group or whatever like that. And especially when you have functional teams, I always think, like, an engineering team who actually works with product and marketing and other teams like that, I always think, and this is what I usually advise, is like, let's first start off with the cross-functional things you're trying to achieve, because as an engineering team, you're not achieving much on your own that's of value. Like, I mean, you're a major contributor. You're doing a huge amount of effort that you're building the product, but I mean, you're not doing that on your own. You're actually working with people. So let's just focus on that. And then every now and again, some people will have a team objective, but the team objective is like the 5% of the work. The 95% of the work is like, let's get the product out there. Let's get this business done. And then we have a 5% objective to improve our continuous integration or something like that. Is that aligned with your views?
I completely agree. I mean, the OKR needs to be delivering the business strategy. It needs to be delivering value according to what the business strategy is. Now, you may want to improve continuous integration because you're trying to push more product out per month, let's say.
Yep.
Do you need it? It is intuitive that you do, but if you apply it blindly, you may be pushing products out that nobody wants. Everything needs to be checked towards why are we doing this?
And that really brings back to the role of...
That
really links back to the role of the executive then, right? Because that's where you're sort of like, as an executive, you're not just technical, you're really dealing with the rest of the business and making sure that we're on the right track as a business.
Of course. And you need to convince the others that, the right thing is to... I'll give you an example. So one of my last jobs I joined, okay, where is all the systems? 2 private data centers. Okay, are they redundant? No. So hold on, if one goes down, I lose half of my either my digital or the paper. Basically, yes. I go, okay, that ain't good. Why do we have 2? Well, nobody knows. Nobody knows. It was set up like that 15 years ago. Okay, time to move to the cloud. Now, I go to the CEO and I say, time to move to the cloud. He's like, okay, how much? Why? There you need to start thinking, what is the benefit to them? You don't go to the others saying, can you please approve what's good for me?
Yep.
Because, as a CTO, I want to sleep at night. I don't want to have to worry about the hardware and, the network lines going from Bristol to London. That the CEO would be like, okay, well, why do I care about that? I'm going to be okay. But when you start putting it in terms of how is that going to affect the business? What happens if there is an outage? How can we actually deliver more if we modernize the legacy systems we have? And what in context of, okay, we're going to expand. How are you going to expand from that basis? You can't. Then you start putting the argument for the investment you're asking for in terms of how the others are going to understand it.
Yeah. And that's not just marketing your own views. That's really like, this is the act of making sure that the thing you're doing is valuable to the business, right? I mean, that's
it is, but if you present it only from the technology side, here's what we're going to do technology-wise, and you don't start from here's what we're going to do because the business will be better if we do it. It's 2 different responses. I mean, how many times do you get the classic, oh, technology, God knows what they're doing, or the opposite side of the other side of the coin? Business don't understand it. They always say no, but we told them we need these new servers. I go, yeah, right. You told them you need new kits, and the guy, okay, there they are, spending money on new toys. But nobody told them, if you don't do that, that other server is going to go down. You're going to lose 100,000. I'll tell you, perhaps it's a real story, and it will show how that disconnect can happen. I used to work for a business that was time and material. Time and material means I need to have engineers. They cost me 300. I sell them to the client for 600. I make a good profit. but I need space to put these engineers. So I go to my CEO, I go, we're going to run out of space. Okay, don't worry about it. Look, we're going to run out of space. At some point, we did run out of space. I go and say, we're not going to hit the target, the revenue target. He goes, why? I said, I can't put any more guys in. Therefore, we cannot increase the guys we book. So we're not going to hit. Why didn't you tell me? I said, I've been telling you I'm going to run out of space. And he says, I don't care about space. You never told me we're not going to hit the revenue target.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let me not laugh, first of all.
It feels obvious, doesn't it?
But this is a real example. I thought, okay, I get it. From now on, I need to speak to the people, whoever it is, in terms they understand rather than in terms I understand.
Yeah.
Don't rely on them to make the correlation and the connection to what you're trying to say. Spell it out. Start from that. Hey, man, we're not going to hit the revenue target. Why? Because I'm not going to have space. Let's get more space.
One thing I think helps with this approach. Like one thing I've discovered with the companies that I work with is often doing this helps because now you're able to communicate your insights or what you need much better if you can understand this. It comes in that way. But the other thing that happens often enough is when you really try to put these requests, these things that you think you need from a technical perspective, into words that matter to business people, you realize that I don't actually have a need for this. I just want it. Like because often enough, at least a lot of people I work with, you do have this thing. We should have new servers because it makes sense, and it's really helpful to have new servers because then we won't have problems. Put it into a business context, and then figure out what the value really is. And you know what? There's not really a business value behind this. We just need to live with our old servers.
Yes.
And sometimes that realization, like, so to me, the act of like understanding what the rest of the organization is needing, or what they need to hear, and then putting it into that form helps me understand how to make the right decision.
What I used to do, because people would come to me for a new tool, a new toy, and if the price was, let's say, $2,000 a year, I'm looking at it thinking, I know you don't need it, but you know what? I'm going to humor you for $2,000 a year because I know it's not going to make a dent in my budget. It is going to. So, but if someone wanted a toy for $200,000 a year, I would have, hold on. Okay, what's the benefit? What's the alternative? Is there something off the shelf? Is there something free we can license? Whatever.
Yeah, everybody
it depends on the impact of the request as well. Because, from time to time, you need to humor your people to make them see it as a reward, right? Someone works hard and then they come and say, oh, I'm going to book tomorrow half a day off because I need to take my wife to the hospital. I go, look, take it from me, right? Don't book anything. I know that guy, when I need him on a Sunday, he's going to be there. But if I force him, well, it's not even forcing because he's saying, oh, I'll book half a day. And you go, okay, book it. Instead of saying, no, you're busting your ass to work really hard, have it. And
just
that is the point where you show appreciation.
So this is like the human part of management, right?
It goes to culture. A lot of companies say, oh, we need to establish our culture. And they come up with 7 words and they make posters and we're supportive. We're teamwork, right? Supportive. When that guy is asking you for half a day off, are you supportive when you say, yeah, book it? That's not supportive. That's like saying, I don't care how many long hours you're using and you're working. We're not paying overtime, by the way. But no, take half a day off to take your wife to the hospital. Now, what culture is that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this actually brings me to like when you join a new organization. I mean, obviously the culture is one thing, and part of your role as an executive, as a CTO, is to help change the culture, right?
Exactly.
And so, what is it that you do when you start as a CTO? Like, if you want to be successful in an organization, what are you doing? I mean, I remember when you joined Google, we were I was naive, and maybe I still am, but I certainly was naive back then. And I remember you saying, "We're not going to change anything for 3 months because I'm learning about how things work." And we're not going to. Nothing changes. So I'm here, but nothing changes. And that was like the message. I remember thinking, well, what's he here for then? Uh, but that was like, I was quite junior at the time, but what's your thinking about how to come in and start making changes, or what you're doing?
The first thing you need to figure out is, okay, what changes do we need to make? Change is constant. You always need to make changes. But unless you listen, you investigate, you see how things work, you see how the system works. Because it's easy to say, I'm going to change it, but if you don't know who you're going to go influence for the things you want, then you're not going to change anything, or you could be changing the wrong things, right? So first thing is see what's happening, understand how it is happening, figure out who's pulling the strings. I'll tell you an example in one of my jobs. So I'm having my one-to-one with the CEO, and the office, it's all glass, it's looking at the entrance. 10 o'clock, Richard walks in. CEO goes, why is Richard coming in at 10 o'clock? I go, I don't know, and I don't care. Why are you asking me? He's like, well, he should have been here at 9. I go, why? Well, we work 9 to 5. I said, engineering doesn't work 9 to 5. How do you know that Richard was not fixing a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning? Oh, was he doing that? I said, no, I don't know, and I don't care. Now, I could have gone to Richard and say, Richard, why do you come at 10? How stupid would that have been on my behalf? Especially if he did happen to be solving a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Or he had to attend to an emergency, his kid at school, whatever it is. Now, talking about culture again, it took my CEO about 6 months to stop asking, because he was never getting an answer from me.
Yeah.
And I kept on saying, look, all we care is what people deliver. We don't care when they deliver it. They could be here 9 to 5, doing nothing or delivering no value. So you care about the value they deliver, not when they deliver it or how long it takes to deliver it.
Yeah. Or what they're wearing when they're delivering it.
Exactly. And later he actually did change. He said, yes, we're judging people by what they deliver. We don't care.
Yeah.
That is cultural change. And you can achieve it.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, we just had a comment from someone who you may know. I'll put it on the screen here. Richard Ashley says, I never came in at 10, which I'm not sure whether he means he never came in before 10 or whether he never came in after 10. But either way, I do recall Richard, you being there quite a lot, so that's okay. Anyway.
The only reason he was coming early because breakfast was so nice at Google.
Yeah, I think you might have been talking about a different Richard or a different company than that one, because I don't think the Google CEO had a window overlooking the Google entrance where Richard Ashley came in.
No, it was definitely not Google, and we didn't have a CEO in Google.
Yeah, that's true.
Not in London.
Not in London, that's right. So like when you're doing this sort of this change process, you do a lot of listening, a lot of like understanding what's happening, and then you make some decisions. Do you have like a framework? You mentioned it before about you have finance, strategy, execution, and people. I think you used technology, strategy, and delivery and execution, but finance, strategies, finance, strategy, execution, and people. Is that the framework that you sort of view your team through?
Pretty much, yes, because it covers everything. It covers the money, it covers your organization, it covers what the company is trying to do, and it covers how am I delivering the things that add value to what the company is trying to do. So yeah, I would find it hard to find number 5 that doesn't.
Well, of those, when you come in, like, how do you decide where to start? Like, if you sort of could do this, like, I've got 3 months or 2 months or whatever I've got to do some listening and learning and deciding what to do. Do you sort of go, okay, what we'll do first of all is we get our finances in order. Then we'll go and figure out what the strategy is. Then we'll get execution working, and then we'll deal with people. Or is that the order, or something else?
It's not, because it depends what is the biggest pain point.
Right.
So one of the companies I joined, we were fighting with finance almost on a daily basis. Oh, you want to hire someone? I go, yeah. Oh, it's not in the budget. And I was thinking, well, I don't even know if it's in the budget because I don't have a view of what is happening.
Yeah.
And my chief security officer, who was also enterprise IT director, he was like, oh, finance is driving me nuts. So I thought, okay, we were having it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, you know what? We better get control of the finances. And the moment we did, and we knew exactly what everything was, decision making became much easier because I was saying, look, I'm hiring another 5. Oh, do you have the budget? So yeah, I do. Here
it is.
Oh, okay then.
And so then that problem goes away, and that frees you up to work on the other things. Is that what happens?
Yes. Now, if the biggest problem was that the system is not stable, every night we have outages, I would have looked as a priority at that because, oh my God, every night we have an outage. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
What's causing it? Oh, it's external parties. It is us screwing it up. We have no process. So you look at the pain, and by the way, pain is a good way to cause change.
Pain is a good way to tell me about
that. Right? And you go, well, if we don't update these servers, we're going to have an outage. And they go, don't worry about it. Because all you're doing is saying, look, there's a risk. And they're like, okay, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, okay, let's wait and see. But you tell them every day, yeah, if there is an outage, we're dead. And then the moment it happens, because it will happen, you go, oh, look at that pain. Maybe we need new servers.
That's this reminds me of a situation that I had with you in Google. Not that you caused pain, but the situation was something along the lines of the group of people I was working. I think it was the TAMs at the time, the technical account managers. We were saying there's too much work to do. There's too much work to do, and we can't do it all, or whatever it was. And I think what the eventual figure, what eventually happened is that you told us to stop doing some of the work. Right? As in, don't do everything, choose what you're doing and tell the person that you're not doing that work because you've got something else. And when they say, we want you to do this work, you don't say no, you say, yes, I can do that, but what else do I drop? Because I need to drop something. And making sure that they are feeling the pain of prioritization, and it causes them to do the work of prioritization.
That's a good example of pain, because what happens, people tend to absorb the pain, work more hours, work unreasonably more hours, complain to the manager, I have a lot of work to do. And the funny thing, there were many times where you say, okay, don't do those things. I go, but it has to be done. I go, no, it doesn't have to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I remember saying exactly that. And I remember most of us saying exactly that kind of thing, but it has to be done. We have to do this stuff. And we're here until like it's 9 o'clock at night every night. And it's really hard. And then the only way you could get a change, like get more resources, was like if we cause someone else to have some pains, then we get the resources, or then we'll get a solution, or we'll find a different solution to this, or we reprioritize.
And normally the frustration comes as to, no, I can't do that. I go, no, you can. It's just that it's going to be in December 2024. If you look far enough in the future, you're going to be free. So book it from there. So the same thing happens. You call the plumber. Your tap is leaking, and he goes, well, I'll come in 3 days. No, I need you now. I'm not available.
Yeah.
And then you call a guy at 200 pounds an hour to fix it.
And then you get it fixed, but you've paid a lot because you have a lot of pain.
It's a niche market too. Remember, it's a niche market. Calling emergency plumbing, electricity. You pay an arm and a leg because They're gonna come the moment you want them, but hey, you're gonna pay.
It's expensive. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I think it's a lot of this sort of topic is really, because from my perspective, part of that's about, as an individual, how to manage workload and how to or as a team, as a manager, or whatever I'm doing, I need to make sure I make some decisions so I cause those things to happen. But part of this is also about stakeholder management and working with other people. And I wanted to ask you about collaborating with other executives in an organization. Like, obviously you have a close relationship with CTO to Chief Product Officer. What about how you collaborate with sales or with marketing or with customer service or other groups like that? What works really well? What doesn't work well? How do you manage that as an executive?
The CEO inevitably has a big role to play here because it is his team.
Yep.
And like, you have your team and you're doing things to create the team. Team requires effort. Just because someone put them together and said, okay, report to Nikos, that doesn't make them a team. And I found that the hard way sometimes. Google was one of the best we ever had.
Right. In terms of
Richard
team
will probably remember that I was not, maybe I was working 3-4 hours a day, but anyway, that's a different story. So the thing that I was trying to do was trying to talk to the CEO, because they're busy too, about the need to do team building for the executive team. How are we going to get together? Do we have a common understanding of what we're trying to do? Because the worst thing is everybody's trying really hard, but not on the same understanding, not driving to the same path. So, and you can do a lot to actually agree what we're going to try to do. And the other thing is help the others without expecting something back. Just help them.
Right.
Every opportunity you have, help them. It creates credit for you.
So even like working with the marketing person who you don't necessarily have a close working relationship, you just help them out with something.
Yeah, help them out. Then it could be anything. It could be like fixing his laptop, or, oh my God, the marketing campaign is not playing out. Hey guys, come on, let's go and help them.
Right, at least get some engineering help on this. One of the topics that comes up with my clients is sometimes I get I always ask engineering to make sure that the engineering leader to make sure that they kind of understand the marketing strategy and can ask some dumb questions, because it's often those dumb questions that actually cause the results. And so you're having that outside view on things and vice versa. So this is an area where it's like you need to understand enough about marketing to be able to ask some dumb questions and not get them answered, so that then you understand it, and now you can talk to your team about how marketing works and so on.
So what you just said is extremely important, because if you don't have that, call it basic understanding, you work in silo and you assume that the others are prating about doing nothing because you don't know. You don't know, right? And marketing is probably sitting there thinking, 200 engineers, what is Nikos doing? And it is, you don't need to wait for the others to make the first move, right? You make the first move. Go and say, hey guys, do you need any help? Let me tell you what we're doing. By the way, I really appreciate your effort. How do you deal with those things? Because I'm not a marketing expert. I don't understand how they do it. So help people out as much as you can. And it's normally 9 out of 10. When you need something, they're gonna be there. There is always 1 out of 10 that they're not. He's selfish bastard. He ain't gonna do anything. Okay, don't help them next time.
Is that one of the pitfalls, do you think? Like, you talked a little bit about the pitfalls in executive management. Is that like judging people or making sure that you're giving where you're going to get, or have I misinterpreted that?
No, because maybe there is never an opportunity for someone to do something for you, and
it's not always about giving to get.
You don't need to wait for payback. It's not about, hey, I did this, let me find something for you to do for me. It doesn't need to be this way. It's not, give and take. It's just genuinely trying to help people.
Yeah.
And, I find that most people will, when there is a need, they will help you.
Is there something that when you talk about team building with their team, one thing that you said, because you said it's a lot to do with the CEO, it's their team, and you build teams, you do the team building exercises for your team, or build teams at least. One of the things that I always struggled with team building is that it always tends to be, let's all go and play paintball together or something like that. And whatever reason, I'm not a fan of paintball. I think whatever it was, I was never a fan of it. I'm the grumpy guy in the corner at these events. Although I'm generally pretty friendly most of the time, but I never like these events. Is that what you're talking about with the team building? Or is it, because you also mentioned like it's all about making sure we're agreeing and aligned on where we're going and solving the right problem. And that's something that I love to do,
It doesn't need to be an activity that, maybe a quarter of the people don't like. And it's ultimately very hard to find activities that everybody will like.
Yeah.
So, but you build a team in various ways. One, let's say you're the CEO, you have 5, 6 executives. Do they know what they're doing each other? Do they understand it? So do some PR. Say, hey, Richard, Nikos is really working hard on that. It would be good, let's get together. Let's understand what we're doing. Let's talk about the common pains. How are we going to address it? So you can do a lot to create understanding, make sure everybody's pulling the same way, and they actually start helping each other.
Yeah.
A lot of what's the first thing that comes to mind when something goes wrong? My CEO, you say, who's responsible? I go, don't worry about that. Yeah. And it's not my job to find it. They have managers. Someone's going to deal with the performance of that person, if indeed is a repeat performance. My main concern is, how are we going to fix it? And is the organization learning anything from that problem?
Yeah.
But the first response tends to be whose fault it is. Now, think of the executive team and the team building now. If when something goes wrong, system is down.
Mm-hmm.
If the marketing guy comes and says, oh my God, again, what is this? If instead they come and say, hey, you must be stressed right now, but don't worry, I'm going to give a marketing message to say we're working on it.
Yeah.
It is a very different approach.
Right. Then that's not marketing coming in.
That's what builds the team.
Yep. It's not marketing coming and wielding a stick and saying, here's a problem. It's like what can I do to help here? How do we move forward? How do we solve the problem? How do we remove the pain?
Exactly.
How do we learn from this?
If someone holds a stick and said once, twice, you're going to be waiting at the corner for something, a marketing campaign that goes wrong, and you go, oh, marketing, they don't know what they're doing yet. There are plenty of executive teams that operate exactly like this.
Yeah.
But again, it's the role of the CEO. If the CEO starts asking who did it, then that propagates down. The stronger one will say, oh, don't worry about that. Let's fix it. Let's work together to fix it. Forget whose fault it is. I'll tell you briefly another story. So I had an outage, and very early in the morning, I'm sitting down with, let's say, Richard is the engineer. We're looking at the logs together to see what it is. We find it. Okay, we need to reset. I said, okay, great. At some point, he says, it was me who screwed it up last night because I was not careful. I know. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that we work together to solve it. Mm-hmm. And now you screwed it up in that occasion. You'll be more careful next time.
I had exactly the same experience, but yeah. Sorry, you were about to say something. I'll let you finish.
It's the choice, going back to
the choice,
what is culture, what is management.
Yeah, true.
It is that choice that you have.
This is all about the action of management, creating the culture of forward-looking, let's solve the problem, as opposed to let's find the blame. Yeah,
I had exactly any poster you want on the wall about supportive, teamwork, whatever. Pick, there's plenty of words. Companies, the culture is how we do things.
Yeah, exactly.
How we do things. If my choice was to actually call him 2 o'clock in the morning and say, you screwed it up, rather than, okay, look, we have a problem, how are we going to solve it? It's two different cultures completely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had exactly the same experience of, I was the guy who screwed up a situation. This is before Google. Another guy who I consider one of the best managers I came across, a guy called Stuart Riley, now at Citibank. But I screwed something up and I just forgot to apply the patch, and that meant that the trading floor in Singapore couldn't trade, and it was like hundreds of thousands of euro or pounds damage. It's huge. Anyway, so he said, he came to me and did basically exactly the same thing, but he said, look, I'm really quite busy at the moment dealing with the fallout from this. Just tell me what you're going to, how this is going to, I trust you entirely. You're the expert in this, but what have you done to make this not happen? What will you do? Can you give me a plan so you know what's going to happen next time, so we don't do this again? How are we going to do this? Just show me what the plan is, and then I can market it, but I'm not going to bring it up again because I know you're feeling shitty anyway. Because I was.
Yeah,
exactly. It's really good.
I mean, how much more dedicated you're going to be to your job, to the company, to him.
Oh, exactly. I was feeling so down at the time when I was like fixing these things. Oh my goodness, I just forgot to put the patch on, and it's my own fault. And now all this is, and I'm going to get fired. And he's like, no, this is, it's cool. You're still really good, but I just need to know what you're going to do. And it was really, it adds a lot, actually. We got a couple minutes left, I think 2 minutes left or so. I wanted to ask you 2 things. One was, which we can do in any order. One was for your views on OKRs. I know you had some interesting views that we did discuss earlier on as well, about how they work at, we had OKRs at Google, and you used to always win the OKR game. And I just wanted to get some comments on that. And the second question is actually more about what you're doing now, about, do you have any advice for people who are selecting long-term partners for software development or anything like that? Like, what's going on? How do you go about getting people to select well?
So very quickly, OKRs are absolutely necessary. You have to have the means to understand what I'm trying to achieve and how am I going to get there and how do I measure. Because a lot of time, we're going to improve the communication. Oh, great. No plan, fluffy, etc. So absolutely necessary, but they need to be connected between them, the different departments, and achieving collectively what the business is trying to achieve. Where does the business want to go? On the partnership, whether you're getting a software technology partner or you're licensing like a new CMS, my advice would be, one, don't get someone who's 100 times bigger than you, because it is fine to go and buy a BMW, but you can't go to BMW and say, by the way, can you make my seats with the zigzag pattern? It doesn't happen, right? So why would you go to let's say AWS and say, oh yeah, but I'd like my servers painted pink on the outside? It ain't gonna happen. If your needs are such that you need to influence the roadmap, let's say you're getting a CMS. You better get someone who's same size as you, for whom you represent a good part of the business, and you explain, look, I want to partner with you. I'm going to have needs, your other customers have needs, I want to influence. Same with software development. Sometimes they go and say, oh, I got a partner who's 50,000 engineers. I go, and you represent 10 out of the 50,000. Let's see what service you're going to get. The moment you need another 2, but the guy who has 5,000 and he needs 10 or 100, you're not going to get a good service, right? So the selection process needs to be almost like, I want to find a wife.
It's like someone who's like me.
I don't want to make it a complete analogy, but it needs to be of similar culture, similar aims in life. You can communicate well.
That makes sense.
That's why I'm saying it's no different to how two people interact. Why are we friends with that person and we're not with the others? So don't get the wrong partner and then say, oh my God, yeah, I want a divorce.
Yeah, it makes sense. Hey, thanks very much for the time, Nikos. Really appreciate it. If anyone is on here and would like to contact Nikos, what's the best way of contacting you, Nikos? And I'll put it in the comments below afterwards.
It's nkryvossidis@gmail.com.
Kryvossidis@gmail.com. Okay, cool. I will put that in the. I won't put your email address in the link. Maybe I'll put your link to your LinkedIn. Is that better? In your link?
Or LinkedIn profile. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll put the LinkedIn down there. But in Kryvossidis, if you can spell Kryvossidis, you'll get to Nikos.
That will happen.
That's the test. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it. There's a couple of other things I would have loved to have got to and talked about as well, about change management and stuff like that. But anyway, it's been really helpful. I've really appreciated your time. Thanks very much. Stay on the line and we'll have a chat afterwards. But thanks everyone else. Bye-bye. Let's end the broadcast.
Okay.